Welcome back to KneeToKnee. I'm your host, Mark Merritt. And today's conversation is one that I've been anxiously waiting for ever since I read an article in the Deseret News a few weeks ago. My guest today is Joe Tuia'ana. He's the founder of the I Love You Bro project that is the only evidence-based men's mental health organization in the country. A few years ago, Joe was 2 weeks sober, had double pneumonia, and was on his way to a basketball game when he came across a man in crisis on an overpass. He pulled over, climbed up, and the only words that actually came to his mind were, "I love you, bro." That moment turned into a movement. 15 weekly men's support groups meet every week across Utah. Thousands of data points are collected directly from men in those rooms, and a mission to catch guys before they ever get to the overpass. Now, on a different note, if this episode hits home, please do me a favor, hit subscribe and hit like so you don't miss anything that's coming up in the future. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it really helps us reach those men, find this conversation. One of the things that Joe brought today was a bunch of data. I love data. He brought heart, zero filter to this one as well. We get into what men actually need to hear from each other, why reach out if you need anything is one of the worst things to say to a guy, and what real presence looks like for men who are struggling. All right, so let's get into it and get knee to knee with Joe. Welcome everybody again to an episode of Knee to Knee. And as we talked about in the introduction, I am super excited to have, and I know I say that all the time, I'm really excited. Yes, I am today. A few weeks ago, I read that article in the Deseret News, and I'll be honest with you, Joe, you're going to have to say your last name for me.
Yeah, that's not a shocker. Most white people need to remove your tongue just to say it right.
And I'm very, very white. That's all there's to it.
My last name in Samoa would be pronounced Tuia'ana, which would it translates to King of A'ana, which is just an area in independent Samoa. But I just tell white people Tuia'ana, whatever that works.
Tuia'ana. Okay, all right. That helps me out. I appreciate that.
That'll help for conversation purposes, though.
Exactly. So we've got Joe with us here. And a few weeks ago, as I mentioned in the introduction, I read that article in the Deseret News in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it talked about this story that became the I Love You Bro project. And so to start off with, Joe, I just, can you highlight for us a little bit about that? And then we can dive into a little bit deeper, because I'd love for our listeners to know about the story and how you came about what you're working on now.
Yeah, sure. The snapshot. Had double pneumonia, was 2 weeks sober. I was a functioning alcoholic. We had a basketball game to go to one Saturday late morning. And to get to this basketball game and other activities that we normally do, we'd taken the same route 100 times. And this particular time, we came across a bro who was in suicide crisis on the Overpass, which, the route took us through. And, I pulled over. I said a quick prayer saying, "Please, Jesus, just let this guy feel loved," and had the confidence to approach him. What a very surreal experience, very heavy experience, particularly for me in that time. Did not check any boxes to be of any help to anyone, even particularly to myself. I held my arms open to him like I wanted to give him a hug, and just kind of screamed the words, "I love you, bro." It's the only thing that came to my mind to say, and was able to love him off the ledge using those words. And later on, he got the help he needed. Later on, he came we invited him over to our house. Google searched some resources for men within the Utah community and couldn't find any. And on the same search, found that men were 80% of all suicides. So that kind of inspired me, almost compelled me, shoved me into the realms of men's mental health and suicide prevention.
Wow. In the article, they were talking about, I think there were other people there, but their approach was a little bit different, trying to help him out of that crisis. And And so I think it's amazing that your approach that you felt, and obviously that it was the right thing to do, was to tell this person how much, that you love them. And so the question that I have, and this is where we were talking about a little bit
Mm,
before we got on. I've got a question for you. I'm crossing my fingers that it might be
yeah, yeah.
a little bit unique. So I don't know. We're gonna find out here in a second. So you were there in the moment when that man, when the man chose to stay alive. But after you came down from the bridge, from that overpass, what did the two of you actually talk about? And then
Well,
what did that conversation teach you about what men need from each other, and that they're not getting anywhere else?
no, that's a great question. When I actually said I love you, bro, he looked down and saw me. He kind of frantically looked was were beginning to look between me and the great beyond. I felt the need to jump up there like I was freaking 18 again. No arthritis, no chubby body, all this crap. Able to grab him and then lifted him over the fence. And then we slid down to the safety of the sidewalk and just sat together. So the only words after I loved him off the ledge was literally, I love you, bro. That's the only thing I've said to him in the whole experience. And we just sat and cried and were present together. The space created that we created together was just one of peace and comfort and love. And so now, having said that, when he came to our house later, the conversation was all him and little me, meaning the floor is yours, bro. The space is yours. Let's honor pain together. And he was able to kind of tell me what got him to that situation. I don't remember the back end of your question, but we, the first thing he said to me when he first reached out was through Facebook Messenger. He said, "Thank you for saving my life. I'm sorry I made you late for the basketball game." That's actually literally what he said to me. And I get up around 4 every morning, 4:30. I go for a walk, and it was like 3:30 in the morning where I got this message, and I was just crying. I'm one of those guys that I require crying, or else I'd burn this world to the ground. You know?
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
My wife will be watching something on TV and she'll look over me and I'm crying.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what to tell
absolutely.
you.
Yes, that is the way we process. Happy, sad, everything in the middle. So I'm sitting there crying when I'm reading this message, but while I'm laughing, that this freaking guy is like saying, sorry, I made you late for the basketball game. So those were the first words exchanged to us outside or after the overpass. Now when he came to my house, he was just a normal guy with a couple pretty heavy problems that would put any of us as men into some level of suicide ideation. And with him, it just happened to be an impending divorce. And the thought of not seeing his son, there were some words said to him that you're never going to see your son again. You don't make enough money. Okay. So you take those three things. That's
Yeah,
what he
that's
talked
huge.
about. Yeah. You
Yeah,
check those three things for any man. We're not married anymore. We don't make enough money. Clearly we're not attractive enough. But those things are what we put so much of our value and into. And so self-worth into.
right.
So he shared that stuff with me. Those were the first things that we talked about, which led to the more, as we started progressing about the I Love You Bro project. So
Yeah, those are some heavy things, and I think there's a lot of men that have gone through that and experienced, those same types of things. And you mentioned early on, that 80
yeah, AT
of the
80.
80%. And then is that suicide? Is that nationwide or is that
That's
just?
so technically nationwide 74%. In Utah, which is where, I believe you live too, we're at closer to about 80% as we get the morbidity data that rolls in, that comes in
Yeah,
a couple of years later. And so it is a growing problem. And the problem with this growing problem is that we don't talk about it. We don't do anything about it. We are all into crisis intervention when things get so bad. For Aaron, for example, things got so bad in those things happening with him, those challenges he was facing. He only knew the one way to go, and it was just to go to this overpass or to think I have no worth and I probably just need to die. Then most of us would go down the same path. Now with what we do now, we're like, okay, well then let's get this guy help because it's so bad. Whereas the I Love You Bro Project, other suicide prevention organizations and resources, we're trying to catch that way before an overpass situation
So it's
needs to
more
occur.
you're looking at more of the preventative side as opposed
Yes,
to the
absolutely.
reactionary side. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. And that's a very good point. The word reaction. That's what crisis intervention is. It's
Right.
completely reactive, whereas prevention is proactive. We're talking about getting programs, getting help, resources, easy to follow, something that I can follow. I'm just with I Love You Bro, I'm just the average Joe for the average bro. That's when we lean into it and just give you
Yeah.
something simple that a knucklehead like me can understand and can go through. And so with him, he went through the process that all of us guys would. Okay, I have no wife. I clearly can't keep a wife. I'm not attractive enough. I don't have a good enough job, and then I may not see my kid again. And I'll tell you what, brother, having 15 weekly support groups out of the state of Utah and have observed and collected data, countless hours of support group observation, that is the consistency. That is the pattern for mental suicide ideation. We don't need a mental health history. And Aaron did not have one, like a mental health history of depression and, attempts. And whereas his was just like, okay, these few horrible things were happening to me and I have no way or no education to process them healthfully
Yeah.
or regulate some of the feelings I was feeling.
For someone to have a mental health history, they actually have to have gone to doctors,
Actually had to
psychologists,
go to the
therapists,
doctor.
and all that they've gotta have this
Hmm.
whole litany of things before someone can say they have a mental health history, as
Exactly.
opposed to this person you're talking about. It's just it's that overwhelmed by the moment and not knowing what else to do.
Yes, we have men who very quickly get into what we call tunnel vision when it comes to any sort of magnified problem. So if we have, we'll take, for example, Aaron's situation. He sees his wife says, I want a divorce. Boom. His world just went from this, I have all this to
Yeah,
do, to just this. My wife wants to leave me and she's going to leave with my kid. It's going to get smaller and smaller. And so the peripheral vision of life is completely blacked out. There's a fog of war there that men get or obtain when those things hit us hard, you know. And so it hit him. He needed someone like me on an overpass to help him feel and see things peripherally. He said
yeah.
specifically that when I heard the words of "I love you, bro," the first thing I thought of was not this guy loves me, but I love my son. He has a little son, so so I helped him feel peripherally by saying the words and giving him a hug and sitting there. So yes, all of us men, we absolutely tunnel vision that one, two, three things, and then we're just like, man, I can't believe I don't know how to process this, and I can't take the weight of this.
Yeah, so many. I mean, just naturally, I think there's that's one of those things that's been ingrained, or whether you're talking genetics or the way that a man's brain is wired. We can get so. I stumbled across that video of that comedian a lot. I don't know if he's a comedian or a therapist or whatever, but he's talking about the difference between a men's brain and a woman's brain. Right? And you're talking about have you seen this one where he talks about the
Mm-mm.
boxes? And he goes, the men's brain is full of boxes, and we only look at one box at a time. The women's brain is wired everywhere, right? But when you talk about this thing where we're getting tunnel vision, I think that's exactly this along those lines where we're just looking at that one little thing and forgetting all this other stuff around us that this particular person, I think you said his name was Aaron,
Mhm.
he in reality wasn't by himself. You were up there, but there were others that were in his life that could very well have helped in that process, but he didn't have those connections with those people to be able to go,
Absolutely.
"Oh my gosh, my world's falling."
Yeah. Well, and then, after this 90 seconds of peace that he and I had sitting there, the community started coming, and you mentioned it earlier. And these were not bad people. These are just
Right.
people like us, just random people. These people came up and the first dude said, why would you want to do this? He's thinking this is the right thing to say. This is what I was raised to think. This is what
Yeah,
social media, so the movies tell me to do. The second person that came, this lady, she said, do you have kids? And Aaron says, yes, I do. And she's like, well, what would your kids think about this? You know, it was just shameful. There's a way I heavy, and even just as a normal
Yeah.
dude there, bro, I was like, what the hell are these? Why are these guys saying such shameful things? He's literally just got off the ledge. And so these are just people saying kind of robotic, programmed responses to men's mental health, to suicide ideation pertaining to men. And so with men, the first thing we want to do is try to fix it. We feel like we can fix it
Hmm.
through, well, can't you just man up? Can't you just suck it up? There's no one here that's going to save you. It's all on you, kind of a thing. And I my invitation, I should say, to people, like, someone struggling in my life, what do I say to them? I love you, bro, is a great thing to say. It worked for me in that situation, but always picture who everybody you're talking to, picture them on their own overpass. Just assume that that person, no matter how happy or how sad, angry they are, just assume they're on their own overpass and talk to them and communicate them in a way that you would with them on an overpass. Like, I'm not walking up to Aaron being like, oh man, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I just, we're just programmed. These are just spewing programmed things. Just like, I'm here with you, man. I'll be with you, bro. I'll hug you, man. I'll sit with you. I'll go through this with you. And it was a
I
shocker to me.
think I think that is the biggest key takeaway I can take from this and our conversation to this point is that you were able to be present in the moment with this individual, not sitting next to them, but with them. And that's what helped build that connection. You know, we hear a lot of things of just, and I like you, I don't blame the people that came up and were saying those things. They were probably they were trying their best to help, but I think it's so important to sit there with that individual and actually put yourself, emotionally with them as well. That's the only way I think we're going to be able to help each other as men progress out of this stuff. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps is so common that we hear, but what does that actually mean, right? When it
Yeah,
gets down to our own mental health.
I don't know how that I don't know how that helps anything,
No, yeah,
And so
exactly.
is that because that's not what that person wanted to hear when they were told that. So quick, the I Love You Bro Project is the only evidence-based men's mental health organization in the country. And so what I mean by evidence-based is that all of our programs are data informed and driven, pointed by survey collection that we get from the actual men who attend our weekly support groups. So when a bro comes to one of our groups, he scans a QR code, it asks him some questions, for these guys, very uncomfortable questions. It would be more of it's a humanized clinical intake form. And so when a guy reads, what emotions are you feeling like? What challenges are you having at home, at work? How is your relationships with your wife, your kids, things like that. And then we get this thousands and thousands of
Data
survey data.
points.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so, and then I collect about 1,000 to 3,000 per question, and I swap them out to new one. A new one I'm collecting on now, per our conversation we're having now. Which of the following statements do you feel you need to hear more often from your friends and family? You're a strong man. I believe in you. Thank you for all you do. I love you. I appreciate how hard you work. I'm here for you. There's probably 15 different things on here, okay? All good things. Now I
But
want to
which
see
would you prefer from a
which
man
one would
from
men
yeah.
prefer. Yeah. Number one right now is I appreciate how hard you work. It's the number one selected at 50. And so guys can come in, they can click all of these if they wanted to, or they could click one, but this is the data that we have. And so the next closest one is I'm proud of you. Okay, that's number two. And then the third one, thank you for all you do. Okay, mind you, they're still on here. I'm glad you're in my life. I love you. I believe in you. You're a strong. All of those, they're towards not. They're not far down, but
But
they're
but
not.
but
They're not the leaders.
yeah. Yeah.
And so when we're talking about men's mental health and what do I say to a man who is struggling? Of course, I'm the first guy who says, I love you, bro. That's what I said
That's
before
you.
that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
That's what I'll still say now. And so,
I
but
know you've
I
said
like,
that pretty much in every text we've exchanged. So
oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, man.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That's just who I am. And
Yeah.
so when we're talking about what do I say, let's start with, instead of what would your kids say about this, to, man, I really just appreciate you, bro. Or the next one, thank you for just being you. Or the next one, I'm proud of you. Like these are things that men, as I read them and as I look at this data, I'll get about 3,000 of these, and I'll go over them with my clinicians, and then we'll create workshops to help others, like women and stuff, with these things. And so when I'm reading these, I'm like, those hit way harder than those other things, than some of these other ones. Thank you, or reach. So the bottom ones, that's equally as important. The least
Right.
selected ones
Okay.
says, reach out to me if you need something. That is one of the least, which is what we say, right, to people. Hey,
Right. It,
reach
it
out
is
to me
so
if you
true.
need something,
It is true.
right?
But you say
Yeah,
that right then, and I went,
yeah. Compared to all these other ones, right?
yeah,
The worst one. Let me know if I can ever help.
yeah, yeah. No,
The
I
worst
hear
one,
you
bro.
there. Yeah,
Bottom of
yeah.
it. But those are the two natural, kind of like we're talking programmed responses. Those are the two
Yes.
programmed responses that we're saying to men, everyone, but specifically to men. Hey, bro, reach out to me if you need something. Because guess what, men? They're not going to reach out. I
No,
wouldn't
no,
reach out.
we're
I'm not going to
programmed
do that.
not to,
Yeah. I I
right?
will go I will go internally and have this thing boil to a point, Now, mind you, I'm a very disciplined, and I'm very comfortable with my emotions, and talking about my emotions, where most men aren't. And so, but when we're talking about just men's mental health, and talking with Aaron, talking about with someone who's struggling, if they are men, clearly we want to lead with, not even I love you. That's not even, bro. It's like the sixth one on here for men. And
Yeah,
so when we're leading it, it's like, thank you for all you do. The next one again, I'm proud of you. I appreciate how hard you work. Men, we crave, to women, it's I love you. To men, it's I'm thankful for you. I
yeah,
appreciate how hard, and we're taking it back to the work, right? Man, we're taking all of our value at our job, and provide, preside, protect, our physical strength. It's clearly, it collaborates with all other existing data out there. So,
right. No, that's all awesome, and I love that. You're talking about how many data points and these things that you're getting in every week
bro, I got so
from all
many.
these. Yeah,
We could have a 3-hour conversation on my data that I've collected. It's incredible. This is just
you
a
and
new one
I,
on collection.
yeah, you and I might have to have more conversation because this is really interesting. So another question that I have for you is, so many men's groups, they'll meet quarterly, they'll meet monthly, they'll meet however often. How did you decide? What brought you to we're meeting every week?
Failure,
How did you get there?
failure.
Failure.
Yeah, it was trying beta testing. What what did Aaron need? This all started on addressing Aaron's needs. What did he
Okay.
need? He needed something that was consistent. Every other Tuesday didn't work for him. Every third Wednesday of the month didn't work for him. And so I failed trying to do forward, mind you, failed forward, and I owned it, and I made some changes. And I was like, you know what? Let's just make this every week. Aaron, would that be more helpful for you? Yes, it would. We met every
Okay.
week, and come to find out, guys started coming. In fact, the fourth most selected things that men love about our groups is, besides safe place to share, emotional validation from other men, hearing other men talk about their emotions. Then right after that, weekly, structured, and consistent. That's the
Yeah.
fourth most selected thing. Which, if you think about it, men, we crave consistency. We crave
Right.
structure.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Joe, man, you're right. We could spend the next 3 hours. My head's spinning right now going, I've got so many things I want to ask you, but we are coming up on our typical time that we like to wrap things up. And so we always end every episode the exact same way. And so I'm going to end it with you. I have one final question for you. You have not been prepped on this. And so the question that we always ask all of our guests is, what is one thing that a man can do today to build deeper connections with those around?
Ooh, I love that. I, if you're asking me, my personal
Yes.
opinion, when I want to build more connection, I take myself out of isolation and start introducing individuals. And so all of our guys who are trying to heal, we tend to try to heal alone. and that almost
Right.
always fails. And so when we're talking about connection, connection, it cannot be to a device. It cannot be through on I love this conversation you and I are having. It's very, very connective. But if you and I were together physically
Very
having
different.
this conversation,
Yeah.
there's so much lost in translation. So if we're talking about today, get off your device, get a step away from technology for a little bit, get outside and get outside with someone. Go from isolation. If we're talking about being alone, just get one person to go for a walk with. Get one person to go bowling with, or go to like you're saying, to the gym. I know the gym's different. It's a different space in and of itself, but just
Right.
just to get comfortable without to to get comfortable with somebody doing something, because connection cannot be with and of course you can connect with nature. Absolutely. You can connect with yourself. It's good to get to know yourself. But let's start by just being around somebody else, being around people. Our groups require guys. We have nothing that is streamed. So we tell every guy, you have to come here. You have to be present for that reason.
Right.
Go be present with somebody. That would be what I would say, bro.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We've had a lot of people will talk about different uses of technology, which is important in our day and age. But I also agree very much so putting it down, being present with the people, somebody else in that process. And so, Joe, I so appreciate you coming on and spending a few minutes with us
Me
today.
too, brother.
And I appreciate you being around. Everything that you guys are doing, I love you, bro. I think it is awesome. I did have a chance, just so you know, to pop into the men's group here up in Providence,
With
Utah a few
Ashish.
weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yeah, and I tend to travel a lot, so I haven't been able to get back there, but it's a good group, and so I would encourage anyone that happens to be in an area where I Love You Bro is to definitely check it out. I think it's a great thing. So
Please.
thank you again, and thank you all those who subscribed. We sure appreciate you spending some time with us. Make sure that you definitely, if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed and like and push this message out that Joe has shared with us today, because I think so many men need to hear what Joe has to say and what they're offering. And I love you, bro. So thank you very
Love you,
much,
bros.
everyone, and we'll catch you on the next go around.